Hello again. In this video, after 3 intensive videos on estimating, I want to have some fun with estimating. So I will share 3 fun stories with you. And obviously, I'm not just sharing stories. Of course, there will be a moral to these stories. I'm going to start with number 3, actually. And this is a funny story we always like to share in our classes, which is to help people understand the difference, especially when we talk about earned value management, between accounting and cost control. Because we often see some organizations, they don't even have a cost control position on the team. And when we ask them about it, they say, yeah, we have financial control. Financial control is accounting. Yeah? The difference between financial control and project cost control. What's the difference? Well, one way we can look at this is that an accountant lives in the past. What do we mean by this? If I go to our project accountant, let's say we have a project accountant on the team, and tell them, look, accountant, I need to know how much money we are spending on this project. That accountant could probably tell me precisely to the dollar or to the cent how much money we spent, or maybe at least if it's not paid yet, is at least it's incurred. That means there are invoices for it. So the accountant can only tell me about the past, up to today. Which is, okay, useful information, but for project performance measurement, really that doesn't help. When I was working in capital project and cost control or estimating, the only reason we look at the accountant file is just to fill a cell in our Excel sheet to tell our management the exact amount we spent to date. That's one reason we look at the accounting file. And the other one is to make sure nobody is cheating. Especially if you work on cost reimbursable job, you want to make sure that nobody is actually charging money to your project that doesn't belong. Other than that, it doesn't help me in terms of earned value management. If you remember, if you know earned value management, actual expenditure, actual cost is not actual expenditure. Yeah, they are not the same. So actual expenditure doesn't really help me in assessing the project performance or the project health. So that's the accounting role. Now, if we look at control, control is about, we are here today, we want to look at the past to capture the actual performance on the project. And then today, we want to analyze that performance, and we analyze it by comparing that to the plan and to the estimate. But then our role as well is to predict the future. So an accountant lives in the past, a cost control look at the past to predict the future. What do we say here? We want to be active. We want to be involved. We want to go out and find out what's going on before it happened. Because if I wait for the invoice to come, damage, and there is some problem, damage is done. So I jokingly share a story I learned from my mentor, Ralph Spears, when I was with Exxon Chemical years ago. Ralph used to tell me, and we joke about it, like he would come to my office and say, Munir, what are you doing? Well, I'm working, sitting behind the computer, of course. Said, go out, take a walk. I said, why? You're paying, basically, jokingly saying here, you're paying me to sit and work, not to go walk around. I said, no. Your job is to go walk around as well. I said, what do you mean, Ralph? Explain to me. And of course, after a bit of a joke, basically what he told me, you want to go talk to your teammate. You want to talk to the project engineer, to the construction engineer, to the project manager. Be friend with them. Go have coffee with them. Go have lunch with them. So that's not only about team building, but because in these kind of relaxed environment, you would know what's in their head. You would know what they are thinking. You would know what they are predicting or what they're planning, or if they are having problem or issues that haven't appeared yet in your cost accounting report. So it's very important. It's very important to keep your eyes open. So the best way we can explain the role of control is a navigator. A plane cannot go from point A to B at night or in stormy weather without a navigator. Maybe you depend on your sight and you can see where you're going. But if you want to go long distance, you must have navigation. So control is the navigation for the project. Without it, we'll lose control. Okay? Now, let's explain this in a funny story. And I've seen this story in many industries, but in project management, we have our twist on it. we have a guy on a hot air balloon over a park. And basically, the guy looked at the ground and he see a man on the ground. So he shouted for him. He said, "Hey, sir, can you help me, please?" So the guy on the ground responded, said, "Yes, I can. What do you need?" So the guy on the balloon looked at him and said, "Well, I need you to tell me where I am." So the guy on the ground looked up and said, "Yeah, of course. You are on a hot air balloon 6 meters above the ground." Obviously, the guy in the balloon was not happy with that information. So he looked back and said, "You know, let me tell you, would you allow me to tell you what I think you do for a living?" So the guy on the ground said, "Yes, please tell me." So the guy in the balloon looked down and said, "Well, you must be an accountant." And, "Yes, how did you know?" "Well, because you just gave me exact information that doesn't help me." That's, in a way, what I said earlier about accounting. Yes, all what the accounting data will help me is to find out if somebody is cheating and trying to put charges on our account. But it doesn't help me measure performance. It doesn't help me know where to go. So obviously the guy on the ground got upset and he looked up to the guy and said, "Well, now it's my turn to tell you what I think you do for a living." He said, "Yeah, you think you know? Tell me." He said, "Yeah, you must be a project manager." He said, "Yes, how did you know?" He said, "Because you're lost and you don't know where you're going." So the story is, definitely, without control, a project manager is probably lost and don't know where they're going. Now, some organizations, the project manager is doing everything, the estimating, the scheduling, the communication, the control. Yeah, but how effective is that? I can probably share with you at least 5 stories on this, but let's stop it here on this one. So, accounting, tell us exactly to the penny where we are. Control, analyze the data and help us predict the future. That's what we call forecasting. Now, another story touching on this, the project management or project manager versus the cost engineer or cost estimator role. Again, I go back to my old buddy and mentor, Ralph Spears. And he used to tell me, well, we learned, at least in Exxon Chemical, that which something contradicts the PMBOK guide, because the PMBOK guide says the project manager is responsible for estimating. Think about this. I know we take sometimes the PMBOK guide for granted. Isn't that conflict of interest? What do you mean by this? If the project manager can define how much the project will cost, yeah, I know the sponsor will have to approve it. But in a way, isn't it that an opportunity to allow the project manager to put some padding in there, which will be the next story? Or allow to have some manipulation of the data? Because at the end of the day, if the project manager, the responsible for estimating and planning, is the same project manager responsible for executing and implementing, that gives an opportunity for the project manager to cheat. Now, I know some people might be upset now with the word cheating. And of course, we are all ethical here. Come on, let's face it. Yeah? If the project manager knows management gonna squeeze, what do? They're gonna hide costs in the estimate. If they have the power to do this, they will do it. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, nobody will wanna look at the failure. Nobody wants to look at, look, I did the best job I could do to come up with an accurate estimate, and management squeezed me, so at the end of this project overrun, it's my fault. Why should I accept the fault? I'm going to do something to basically to allow me to deliver the project, and I look good at the end, and maybe get a promotion or a bonus as a result. I know not every project manager, is this way, and I'm not saying they are being unethical in this case. However, part of practice, it's okay to be on the safe side, right? We have safety factors sometimes even in engineering. So basically, in a company like when I was with Exxon, the role of cost estimator is independent of the project manager. Even as a young cost engineer, when I was learning to estimate, and when we estimate, the project manager cannot tell me what to put in the estimate. The project manager can tell me, for example, be careful about this, watch for this, on this project we have this special condition, we might have unique situation. So they might give me the awareness that maybe my system and guideline does not allow for. And that is then my role as an estimator to come up with the most accurate estimate I could come up with. And of course, I will have maybe my mentor review it to validate that I know what I'm doing. So my mentor, Ralph, would always tell me, Munir, your job as a cost engineer is to do the best you can in coming up with an estimate. That estimate must be It's challenging enough. So the team is challenged, so you don't make it too easy for them. But at the same time, you don't make it too extreme where it breaks the project. So a core message for a cost estimator, do the best you can to come up with the most accurate estimate that is smart, that is realistic, that is achievable. Yeah? You don't want to make it too easy where anyone can basically deliver the project if you put a lot of money in hidden money for that. Or you don't make it too tough where it's impossible to achieve. Done with 2 stories. One more story. Estimate padding. I'm going to go back to my days with Exxon as well. Maybe I shouldn't have said Exxon, but there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a funny story anyway. And the guilty party are probably gone. Guilty in a fun way. So let's have the fun story. And again, I'm going to refer back to my team lead, Ralph Spears. Remember the motto I just shared with you with this story. Come up with a good estimate. So here we were estimating a project overseas. Or maybe overseas is not the correct word, outside of the US. Which means a lot of people on the team would be relocating on the project. When we relocate on the project, Exxon policy would allow us in those days to say that, look, obviously a typical American family is a parent, a man and a wife and 2 kids. So when you want to go overseas, you would want to include allowances to cover their costs, the travel costs, expenditure, school, housing, all of that stuff. Now it happened on this project, we were about more than 20 people were going to go away. We were going to go to the UK first because engineering was going to be done in the UK, and then to Singapore for construction. And this was 24 years ago. It just happened at that time, myself, I was getting married, so it was just my wife and I, if we joined the team. We have another young colleagues as well, no children, and we have another colleague that is old, and his kids were in college, so he will be going along with his wife. So of the team of about 20 people, 3 of us did not have kids. Now, some of us have 3 kids. So we use the Exxon. My mentor said, remember, you have to make the estimate good enough. So ideally, instead of, for example, using the approximate cost for a family of 4 times 20, we did a family of 4 times 17, and 3 is a family of 2. That means we save a lot of money, no travel, no schools. Now, one of my team, I was leading the estimating at that time, the direct cost estimating, got upset. Said, his name was Jim. He said, Jim told me, Munir, Ralph is being too tough here. Why is he trying to push on you guys to make this estimate so strict? At that time, maybe on almost $1 billion project, that could have been maybe a couple of $1 million. So it could be a round off error. So when we estimate detail, we have a gadget, let's say, would cost $100,000. Instead of having 10 of those gadgets, let's say we need 10, Jim put 20. So it's in the detail, it's buried in the detail. So what means, Jim gave us $1 million extra. Now, when I was reviewing his estimate, I found it. Said, Jim, you're hiding $1 million here. Okay, that's not acceptable. Take it out. Now, of course, because I exposed it, Jim had to take it out. And I trusted that he will not do it again. Now, a few months later, we were done. We finished with the estimate. The project were approved. We went to the UK. I ended up going on the team. I was taking the estimated cost and allocating it to come up with an allocated cost over the budget. And guess what? Jim did it again. He has hidden $1 million somewhere else. And basically his argument was, I called him. I said, Jim, what did you do? He said, well, Ralph was being stingy with you guys. Okay, he was taking like a couple of million away from you. I'm giving you another $1 million. You're going to control the project cost. So we're just giving you a chance of success. And with this, I'll probably be ending with my stories on estimating. I definitely have more and more stories, but maybe for another time, another day. I wouldn't say another life. Thank you.